Hello everyone, welcome to Vert Mode. I'm excited to give you a sneak peek at our new course, Mastering Human Anatomy for 3D Artists. In this course, we dive deep into the captivating world of human anatomy, exploring techniques used by master artists throughout history to create anatomically accurate models. If you want to follow along with this demonstration, sign up for our emailing list to receive access to the image planes I'm using right now. And if you're ready to take your skills to the next level, enroll in the full course on Udemy. Links to our emailing list and Udemy page can be found in the video description. Let's get started.
Okay, so now that we have this base block in here, what we are going to do is we're going to add in some edge loops to allow us to refine this and start rounding things out. So one of the first one we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come to the side view here, and we're going to add an edge loop running down the arm and through the hand. And you'll see this is going to give us a side loop to the entire body, which is going to give us a lot. And then following this, what we want to do is add in a torso line. So we're going to come into the torso here, and we can go ahead and add an edge loop running down the center of the torso. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to give us a line down the arm. It's going to give us several lines down the torso. And what we need to do now is we need to adjust these. Okay, so these are going to be the first two that we're going to add. Now, each time we add an edge, it's important to adjust the vertices to match the reference better. Waiting to do this until the end will cause more work because you'll have too much detail to contend with. So what we want to do is just start tweaking these now that we've placed them in here. I'm going to start with the torso, because it's one of the big areas of contention, I would say. And this new center line here is going to allow us to add volume. So we can take these vertices here that were once flat, especially in this chest, and we can pull this out, and just like that, poof, we have a body, and it has the correct looking depth. Now, you'll notice it doesn't have the correct looking volume. So what we need to do now is just kind of eyeball these vertices in 3 dimensions to bring these out to kind of match with this a bit better. So I'm going to bring these pectoralis muscles forward here. And then the side ones here that are very cubed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pulling these back to start rounding out the form. And you'll see how this all starts to come together and allows us to tweak these to just look rounder and more 3-dimensional. So we had a flat character. Now we have a character that's starting to be more round. You'll see how that gets that volume going there to the torso. But like I mentioned, we have to look at this in all directions. So we do have a side edge here now, which means we can also pull these in, and look at that. Now we get a rounded depth on the side. So these side ones now are going to represent the side volume in our silhouette. And that's one of the nice things about starting about a cube, is those side ones are already in the correct place. We just have to tweak those a little bit. Now, the back side, we do have some adjustments we need to make. We haven't really looked at the back of the body. There's also some areas here we might want to explore. We have a lot more vertices here. This area here is going to evolve as we add in detail to the legs, so it's not an area that I want to get too involved in, but we can give this a little bit of roundness in the front here. And these edge loops are actually going to become much more important in the back than they are in the front, because things kind of converge here, and the backside, they diverge. So let's go ahead and explore the backside a little bit here by coming into our front view here and toggling our front layer to see the back layer here. Let's start with the torso because it's a little bit easier to deal with. One of the things that's interesting about the torso is the backside of the torso actually comes in a bit, and you can't really see that too much from the shadow here. Like I mentioned, the shadow went a little bit too dark on this, but what we're going to have on the backside of the character is this depth, and you can actually see that here from the shadow, how things kind of angle in and concave in. So the spine does actually come in like that. So that's going to be something that we see. And the arms here, we can also bring in, that's not going to be the central volume anymore. These back areas here representing the shoulder blades are. We can also bring in the sides because that area is now the main volume. There is an exception here with the armpits. These we can actually pull up a little bit, generally speaking, to let that central volume kind of become the armpit. But that's a challenging area altogether. But anyways, we can get a feel for how these kind of come in. When working with the back view, I like to select in perspective and then come to the back view here. But we can see how those are going to converge into here a bit more and follow those muscle systems. Now, the gluteus is going to be one of those areas we probably want to play around with once we get a little bit more edge loop definition into our buttocks. So I'm not going to touch that, but that will round the torso a little bit better in those areas. Now I can proceed to do the same thing with the arm with the edge loop we added. I'm just going to kind of pull these things down and out, and I'm going to let this new center line that we created represent the central volume that we're seeing in the arm. So let me go ahead and toggle back on the front view. You can see how this center line is going to now be that central volume, and we can basically pull down these back views here to get something softer and rounder in this arm area. So that way we're getting a better sense of the volume here of the arm and the form. And you'll notice this can be quite linear. You know, I added an edge there. So what that basically means is I just pull these ones in here to round the form. And it's not really something I need the image plane for. I already used the image plane to kind of establish the structure of the body relatively close to what I need. These are just kind of helping me round things out a little bit better as I go. And you'll see that we have to do it to both top and bottom edges. Basically, we're just pulling those in towards each other. The armpit is once again an exception. It's one of those areas that's kind of like, where do I take this? Because it's a convergence point where things come together. But just do your best with this one. I'll do the same thing here with the wrists a little bit. Just get those to be a bit rounder. And there we go. Now let's go ahead and proceed to the legs as well. We can bring the legs in a bit here to get us that roundness that they are lacking, all from that edge loop that just runs down the middle. Very convenient and easy to adjust. And hopefully you can see how doing this as we add these is going to make our life a little bit easier, because it's just a little bit less to think about as we go. Down here with the heel, we can round this a bit more. And once again, notice I'm not touching the edge loop that I added. I'm just addressing the existing very boxy structures. And it is a bit of a time-consuming process, but welcome to anything relating to art or 3D. If you want something fast, you're in the wrong industry. Gotta like the process. All right, you'll see now that the gluteus is kind of sorting itself a little bit better. There are some areas of the leg there that I am curious about, but it should be good enough. A lot of this we are going to sculpt, so if it's not perfect, I wouldn't worry too much. We do have to work our way into the head here and start addressing some of these areas. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. This is once again one of those areas we can start to get a lot more roundness. So we can start pulling these forward. And I highly encourage you not to ignore the head as you go. If you ignore the head as you go, it does get a bit messy up there. We are going to address the head much better as we go. So just be aware that that is going to be something we are going to be exploring more in depth. But it is good to round some of these forms as we get them up here, so when we do adjust them, we'll have an easier time. I'm going to move these out now to be the sides, move these to be more in the middle, so that way we're getting that result. Coming down to the chin here, maybe just pay attention to the roundness we're getting in the chin forms. One of those things where it's easier to select in perspective and adjust in orthographic for sure at this point. I might make that a bit broader there. And then just continue rounding here into an area like the neck. And I'm not so sure here because that is the jawline, but we can round these a bit better and just kind of work with these as we go. So get those a little bit more rounder into that head area. And I'm also going to adjust this to give us a better look to this muscle area here, kind of matching this better now that we have more vertices. You can think of vertices a bit like pixels. You know, the more of them you have, the more resolution you have, if that makes sense. So it allows us to get details in there that we did not have previously. Okay, cool. So I think that's a pretty good pass with those. There's a couple areas that I'm not so sure about, like the last adjustments I just made. I think some of these I would prefer to have kept the way they were, but also sometimes you don't get much of a choice with certain areas of the body. They just like to be unruly no matter what you do. But that should give us a okay pass. So I think we've used all of those, and we're ready to move into the next set of edges. So let me go ahead and save here as our third iteration and get in the next set of edges that we are going to add, which we're going to come down and do for the legs. So for the legs here, we're going to do something kind of interesting. We're going to multi-cut. We're going to add in 2 sets of edges that are going to help us construct the toes. So I'm going to add one sort of inner one here for this toe area and one over here for this toe area. And I want to try and get those to be kind of evenly spaced. It's okay if they're not, but it's better if they are closer to evenly spaced. And this is going to give us a lot more geometry to work with in the legs here, both front and back. So just be aware of that. And from here, what we need to do is take some time to adjust these. So let's go ahead and start just tweaking these. One of the big things we're going to have is all of these can move back again. So we can move this back and up. We can move this back and probably out and just kind of capture this volume a bit better. So just be aware that we will be doing this for a bit on the legs here. But just once again, come in here, move these vertices, round this form the best you can. Maybe even start down here with something like the foot so you can really see it coming together. You can pick and choose where you want things to go. This is going to be one of the big ones here where we're kind of swinging this more towards the center. And these ones here, yeah, you know, they are what they are. But this is going to give us a nice center volume here to kind of work with on the inside of the leg, which is something we didn't have previously. So now our legs are going to take on more of a cylindrical appearance and not be so cube-like, which is kind of important to think of. This is another big factor here. Our pubic area can actually sink way back now. It doesn't have to be super far forward. And we can start to get something a little bit more similar to our reference where it is kind of disappearing into the abyss. We're getting that roundness that we didn't have before. Now you do have to kind of pick one of these to be the central line on the leg. I'm going to use this area here to help me determine who goes where. And you'll see that went back pretty far, but that means we can move this one down a bit more, that one forward a little bit more. And that way we get that dip going under the body. And then we can just proceed to move these back a little bit and just keep adjusting this till we get something we like. In this particular instance, I think these are going to be largely just kind of moving back. Now, remember, our goal here is not to capture the perfect human form. This is just to give us kind of a structure to work on when we go to sculpt. So this is not going to be what our final volume looks like. We just want to get something that is going to be relatively similar, so that way as we build up the muscles, we have a nice structure. So that gives us an okay look to the front. I might want to pull these all forward a little bit on this side area here, just looking at that side, and get them nice and even, and then proceed to this back side here, where I am once again going to start pulling these in. So I'm going to pull this in here, pull this one in here, and just kind of get the heel started, and just work these forward one edge at a time here. And I'll look at the spacing I have of the other areas to kind of gauge how far forward to move this one. And notice I am moving just in Z and in X primarily. I'm trying to avoid Y because I don't want to deal with elevation changes if possible. Now this is where things get interesting, is up here. We're going to use these largely to form the gluteus system, the butt area. So I'm going to get to those in a second, but we'll just start by adjusting these to the best of our abilities here. I'm just moving this last row here forward a little bit. And then we can come into this side view here. We're just going to form that interior one and move forward with it. So once again, take your time. It is a time-consuming process, just pulling and pushing vertices here to get something that looks halfway decent. And you might take one step forward and 2 steps back. That's okay. That's kind of what I'm dealing with up here. This is where the butt kind of tucks under. I didn't really have that captured correctly. Now I do. So that's going to be kind of tucking in there-ish. And, we still have to work on the volume aspect of it. So there is a bit of volume aspect. This is going to tuck in. These are going to kind of move out. And we can adjust these as we go to match up a little bit better here. This is one of those things where I do have to kind of decide how I'm going to approach it. So for example, here, I can pull that out to represent the volume of the gluteus and do the same with these here. So we'll just pull these out to represent the volume of the gluteus the best we can. And I actually might do the same with these bottom ones now that I'm thinking about it. Let me flatten them out again. See if that's how I want to approach it or not. Yeah, maybe not. We'll use these to tuck under. Okay. And then we can obviously use these to capture volume a little bit better in this area. There are a few more edges we're going to add. This doesn't have to match up perfectly to the concept. We are going to sculpt over this, but getting some geometry in here to indicate that area can be helpful. And we can make sure that we still maintain our roundness going into here. All right, and the legs going back into here, I feel like we could round this out a bit more. I don't think that these need to be the central back volume. So I am going to pull these over and down and around to round this volume a bit more. And then we can check the side view for where we think we want these to be coming from. But I think I'm going to straighten these out a bit better. Going into that backside there. And then we can just pull some of these out here if we've kind of lost the volume. I'm just going to generically select these and just pull those to match the silhouette a little bit better. The legs are pretty complicated, but something like that is going to at least round the form. We want to make sure we don't have any crazy angles going on there in terms of the geometry. You might notice some hard edges here across this. If you want to, at this point, you could come up here to your modeling menu set. If you're not on it, do a mesh display and soften, and that will help these read as round a little bit better, but that will give us these structures there for the legs. Now, I still want to round out the torso and the arms, so let's go ahead and add in an edge loop to the arms here, running down the center line. So we'll just come right down the middle of the arm here. And just like we did with the last one, we're going to come in and adjust these vertices. I'm going to pull these back a bit and round this just like I did with the leg. That central one that I just added is going to essentially stay put. And then I'm just going to pull back on either side to get the roundness of the arm as I see fit. So that way we get those a bit rounder, and then we can proceed to the backside. And you can almost think of it as moving the vertice halfway between the 2 points. It's not exactly that, but it does kind of come down to that a lot at the end of the day, if I'm going to be honest. So we'll just pull those forward and do the same down here. And a lot of the times it does require pulling in, so it's not just out, but in, if that's something that we haven't explored around an edge. And this part feels pretty flat here. So I'm going to make sure I get a bit more volume to that by just pulling this out and adjusting its positioning. And you really are just kind of looking for volume, right? This is kind of like blowing up a balloon. If we want to equate it to something that's tangible in the real world. We had something kind of flat. Now we're breathing life into it and giving it volume and form a little bit better. All right. So I'm not happy with all of these angles, but I can definitely live with them. And I think that will give us some nice volume to the arm there. I do have something weird going on here in the armpit area. I think what needs to happen here is this needs to come forward. The area that meets the pectoralis muscle. So this should be one of the most far forward here. And this one does need to come backwards for the shoulder. So that will give us a more accurate look there. Let me check this for the bicep. That looks okay. Need to pull this forward just to give it more volume. And same with the trapezius muscle back here, probably needs to pull out and have a bit more volume. All right, so just keep pushing and pulling those vertices on the arm until you have something that has an okay amount of volume and still matches your silhouette. Let's check the back view real quick. And with the back view, it's sometimes hard to tell. Let me see if a lower angle would be appropriate for this. Let me check the front view for the armpits. Yeah, maybe a slightly lower angle would be better for that. And we can probably call that good. I can, however, bring these in more, which is worth doing. So let me check that on the front. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can match this a bit better. And we can round that a little bit more. Bring that down so it's not quite as angular. And that should give us something okay for the arms in terms of what we're looking for there. I'm going to move the armpit in just slightly so we're not getting such a weird area there. And we might revisit some of those, but I think that is okay. Let me pull this in a bit more. All right, so we'll call that good on the arm pass. Now we need to get in a few more passes here for refinement, so let's go ahead and get another pass at the torso. For this one, we're going to add in an edge here across the chest, then another one across the midsection, and another one across the base section. So we're just going to cut each of these in half, just so you can see the edges I added. I will highlight these here. Those are the 3 edges I just added. Okay, so just like we did previously, we need to come in here and refine these. So just come in and adjust the vertices away. There's not really a whole lot on this one in terms of the side angle there. And even in the front angle, it's not really a whole lot. This is kind of interesting up here. This particular area should be the clavicle. So I am going to actually pull that up there more. And that might change things. So this is going to be kind of that clavicle line right before the neck. And that will allow me to adjust these, which also means this entire edge probably should be in a different spot now that I'm looking at it. We have a couple different options for that. I'm going to go ahead and just adjust these real quick though. We can just double click that edge. If there's an edge you don't like, you can go to Edit Mesh, delete Edge and Vertex, get rid of that, and then just drop in another multi-cut here. That way it's a little bit more even, and we can check if there's anything in here that we need this to have. But yeah, it's pretty close. I think the main thing is just pulling the volume forward a bit more, maybe rounding some of the shapes in the side view here. Now that I'm looking at it here, this feels very blocky in the side view. So that just kind of rolls a little bit more naturally into there, I think. It's a nice adjustment. Now coming back here, this is kind of a big one. This is going to deal with that side muscle here. So you can see these large forms we have on the side. We're going to want to pull this out. You know, notice this is going to interfere a bit with the geometry. You have to make a call here on how much you want to let this interfere and how you want to address this. This does kind of tuck into here, right? So this is my armpit area. We could play around with this to lower it, but at the end of the day, that wouldn't be accurate. So I'm not going to take it all the way out here because that will cause issues, but I will pull that out a ways. So we are getting a little bit more volume right there. And I will consider changing the angle of the armpit to match a little bit better. And then just come down in here and check the front volume of this. And a lot of these newer edges that we're adding, they're not going to have as much done to them. If that makes sense, because we already have a lot of the central volume. The main thing they're being added for is when we smooth to make it a smaller distance, because that's going to be something we're going to be doing when we get into ZBrush, is using that subdivision workflow. And like this one here, we could pull in slightly. And this is one of those ones where I might scale this to be flat and just pull it up a little bit more. So that way we get that nice angle there that it's supposed to sit at, and we can check the front area. And then even straighten out some of these areas like the pelvis. But once again, not really a whole lot of tweaking that needs to be done there. On the back side, however, you can see these do tend to need to be pulled in and out a little bit. All right, So that'll give us a little bit extra on the torso. If you want to have more even spacing, you can double click these, and under Mesh Tool, you can use Slide Edge, and you can use this to just kind of middle mouse slide these. That could be useful to get a little bit more even spacing, because at this point we want to get as even spacing as possible between these for the sake of sculpting. So from here, we're going to do the same sort of process, adding in multiple loops around some of the other areas like the legs and arms. So we're going to add in basically an edge loop across each edge. So we're going to add an edge here, an edge here, an edge here, an edge here, and an edge here. So across each form, just one edge loop. So I'll go ahead and highlight those for you again. And the purpose of this is just break this up again and get a little bit more detail. And to help with subdivision. Now, one of the areas we might actually get a little bit out of is this area here sometimes, but actually it looks like we didn't really. But just double check those, see if any of these can be tweaked to get the form a little bit more accurate from front, side, and back. Like I mentioned, at this stage, it's generally pretty minimal because the really large forms are already in there. But every now and then, one of these forms does make a bit of a difference on volume, or maybe you come in and you notice that, hey, this looks a little bit funny from the side view, and you find something that could be adjusted to be a little bit better. Actually, still a bit iffy on this whole back area here. I feel like we could still move that out a bit more. Maybe not that much. All right, let me just check these views. Yeah, it does look like those can come in a little bit. And just keep working all your views here. This is kind of a big one here. You can see these can come in a lot. So that's going to make a big difference. That's one of the edges that I just added from the front, allowing us to get that divot in by the knee. Here, that's going to get us the lower leg a little bit better. And I'm not too worried about that volume. That's going to be sculpted in there. But there we go. That's going to give us the volumes a little bit better there. And then we can work our way up to the arm and do the same thing. So just like we did with everything else, every other one here, we're just going to go edge loop, edge loop, edge loop, right in between. And once again, the purpose of that is to make it more even for subdivision. So now just come in here and see if any of these need to be adjusted. And like I mentioned, if they don't need to be adjusted, don't feel a need to adjust them. This is just kind of a quick pass here to better capture these forms. And like I mentioned, some of these areas we are going to make a compromise in, like here in the armpit area. We don't really want to get that too tucked in because that's going to make it hard to sculpt. But this area here, you'll see I'm doing quite a few adjustments too. I do want to make that edge loop a little bit straighter. It's not terribly straight, a little bit easier to use. And we can check the side view here. Now the side view of the arm can get pretty hard to see. If you want to see it a little bit better, you can come into face mode here and just kind of shift select the arm faces. You might want to deselect this one here that attaches up to there. Select the side view, side image plane, and then hit the isolate selected button right here. And this can allow us to see these a little bit better. It's a nice little technique I like to use. Isolate selected doesn't delete anything, it just hides stuff so you can see what you're doing a little bit better. And it can be very useful when it comes to stuff like this. But I think that's pretty close to what I need there on the arm. So let's go ahead and save that. And that is going to get us the detail for the arm. The last section I want to do is the neck here. We want to get a little bit more detail to the neck. So we're going to come in and add a multi-cut here to the base of the neck and to the center of the neck. And then we're going to take some time here to adjust these. So we'll start on the side. I just feel like the side profile of the neck is a pretty challenging one. And just pull these back. This section here is going to be a lot easier than the trapezius muscle that is beneath it. I think we can pretty much call that done. Now, as far as this one goes, this is a little bit more challenging. We have another edge loop here, and this is going to be one of those areas where we can start to capture this volume. We have to decide if we want to go out and up or both, and generally it is a combination of out and up. And this is one of those areas I tend to notice you never get to capture 100% accurately in this block and pass. You can get it pretty close, but it tends to be very hard to get perfect in terms of the volume we're looking for our asset. So just be aware of that. The base of the neck here, this is pretty decent. This is where the clavicle goes, and this is just going to kind of form an additional shelf for us to kind of catch on in the smoothing, so it doesn't really need to be adjusted too much. The one thing I will say is if we need to, we can basically relax these a little bit more. But that will make it so when we smooth this out, that area is going to catch nicely and form a neck area. All right, and then we can come back here and tweak this. All right. So at this point, we have a lot of vertices on the canvas, a lot going on with this model. There are a lot of small things we can do to just kind of tweak this and make it a little bit better, but I think this is a pretty good go at where we are at currently. Notice we have not worked our way up into the head. We still have very basic hands, very basic feet, but what we do have is a good start to the torso here. There are some areas here that may feel a little bit flat on mine. I might want to come in here and adjust this, but this is going to be the start. So what I want you to do is I want you to try and get to this point and then take your time after adding in this geometry to edit the vertices. Try visualizing the reference image as you rotate around your model and adjust the form in the perspective view to add volume. Try not to stretch the geometry to fit the reference though. You want to make sure that the polygons are as close to square as possible, and you'll notice looking at mine, that is something that I've tried to achieve. And this is going to make detailing this in ZBrush a bit easier, because what we ultimately want is a nice even spread of subdivision across the surface. One of the things you can do if you want to read this a little bit better is you can come into the attribute editor of your object, go into smooth mesh and turn on display subdivisions. And then when you press 3, you'll get an idea of how this is subdividing. And you just want to get these to be as even as possible in terms of squares. They don't have to be perfect, but keeping them square shaped is going to be your goal. Okay? So as a challenge, what I want you to do is go ahead and add in your refinement edge loops to your torso, arms, and legs, and adjust the vertices so they have a nice even volume and are giving you relatively even quads across the surface for the purpose of sculpting. All right, so go ahead and give that a shot, and then when you get done, we'll dive into taking a look at the head next. For the next part of this lecture series, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can catch it when it goes live. We're going to give you guys the full modeling section out of the course as a preview. And just as a reminder, if you would like to follow along, sign up for our emailing list below to get the image planes I'm using in this demo. And if you want to take the full course, check us out on Udemy. I'll see you in the next video.